Hi YouTube, let's get started with this oil change. The first thing you want to do before you start an oil change is make sure you have everything you need to complete the job. As always, safety first. I recommend safety glasses and rubber gloves. Also, whenever you jack up a car, make sure you put wheel chucks in front of and behind the wheels that stay on the ground. And once the car is jacked up, use jack stands. Once you're going to drain the oil out of the car, use a drain container and use a recycle container to dispose of the oil responsibly. Before you start, make sure you go to your auto parts store, O'Reilly or AutoZone, or whichever store is closest to you, and pick up the correct oil for your car and the correct oil filter for your car. Use a funnel to put the oil in, and use a box in or open in wrench or ratchet and socket to remove the oil drain plug. When you remove the oil drain plug, make sure you replace the crush or nylon washer, and make sure the old washer is not still stuck to the oil pan before you install the new washer. If you install two washers, you will have an oil leak. This little spatula here is just a little tool I use personally to scrape my oil pan as clean as possible before I wipe it out with paper towels. Next, we'll go into the car and drain the oil. Okay, so now we've got the car all jacked up. We're going to drain the oil. We've got our wheel chucks. We've got our jack stands. And I've got the car still on the jack. I want to show you how I placed that. I know we covered that in another video, but I just want you to have a quick look at how I placed the jack on the cross member. And I jacked up both tires at the same time by placing the jack in this method. And then we'll go ahead and move the jack and drain the oil. So I just placed it right there on that cross member like so. Okay, we got the jack out of the way. We got our oil catch pan in place. So now all we have to do is open up this screw and let the oil drain out into the pan. You might have to move the pan around a little bit to make sure you center that oil and you don't get any on the ground, so be prepared to do that. And then you just take your gloved hand and there it is. There it comes out. And I'm going to look at this washer here. As a matter of fact, I'll just change that now. Here's the washer. This washer is actually in good shape, but just for the sake of the video, I'm going to put this new washer on there. This is magnetic, so I'll just stick it to the oil pan here. You'll notice too that this magnet is completely clean. There's no little bits of metal or anything on there, so that means the engine is not having any internal problems, and no little pieces of metal are sticking to the magnet, so the engine's in good shape. So that's a good sign. If you have an oil change and you check the magnet and there's metal all over it, you might want to have your engine checked out by a professional to see what's going on with that, or change the oil weight or change the oil more frequently because something's wearing inside and causing those little pieces of oil, little pieces of metal to collect on the magnet. When you drain the oil, you want to go ahead and let the oil drain until it stops coming out. For the sake of the video, I'm just going to put the plug back in now. This oil didn't really need to be changed. It's perfectly fine. I just drained it out so you could see it. So then you just put your drain plug back in. Make sure the old washer is off. You don't want to put two washers on there because it'll leak out in between them. You get that on, and then you can torque that down. There may be a torque specification. I usually just do it snug. Do it good, not too tight. You don't want to over tighten it, but get it good and snug like that, and then it won't leak. So now all we have to do is change the oil filter and put the new oil in. Okay, this isn't ordinarily part of the oil change procedure that I show, but I say, what the heck, let them see everything that it takes to actually do this kind of stuff for a good oil change. In this particular case, to get the shot I want to show you how to take the oil filter off, because on this car it's easier to take it off from underneath, I actually have to remove this little covering piece here. So I'm going to do that and let you see me do that real quick, and then I'll reposition everything and show you the removal of the oil filter. So here we go. Okay, and now we have access to our oil filter. Okay, I've got a good shot of the oil filter now. I've got the oil pan, catch pan right here underneath. Okay, so you want to make sure you have that underneath your oil filter before you take it off. And then I'm just going to reach my hand up there and unscrew the oil filter. There you go. That's how you take the oil filter off. Now this oil filter is fine. Ordinarily, you just put a little bit of oil around here on the new oil filter, and then you put it back on. And you put the new one on. You want to make sure that this little rubber gasket O-ring here on the filter is not stuck to the engine. Sometimes they'll come off the filter and they'll be stuck on there. Make sure that the old one is not stuck on there before you put the new one on, because then you will have a massive oil leak. And then you just put the new one on. You have to get it lined up correctly. Yeah, there we go. And just screw it on now, and tightening the oil filter, you don't want to over tighten it. I can't emphasize this too much. You do not want to over tighten the oil filter, because as the engine heats up, it makes that little rubber O-ring gasket expand, and it gets tighter. So if you tighten the oil filter too much, it will make it almost impossible to get the next oil filter off, to get that oil filter off at the next oil change, because it gets much, much tighter. So you just want to hand tighten it good and snug, wiggle it back and forth a little bit, and then snug it, and that is tight enough. If you over tighten it, it takes extreme measures to take it off at the next oil change. Okay, that's it. Now all we have to do is add the new oil. Once all the new oil is in, we'll check the level and put the oil cap back on. Okay, I think the oil level is completely filled up. So now we'll check it by checking the dipstick. Pull it out once, clean it off, put it in a second time, and pull it out, keep it vertical, and take your reading. That's full. It's all the way up to the full line here. Alright, so all we need to do now is place our dipstick and put our oil cap back on.